we should be able to see a little bit of her right. Unfortunately, she's not lying in the best position for it. I wanted to try and get a look at whatever's hurting her leg, but short of her getting up and moving closer, I don't think we're going to have a good chance to see it. We just need her to get up and start to walk, and then maybe we'll be able to see what's hurting her. I'm curious. I want to know what kind of injury it is, and whether or not we can try and work out if it was something gained during a hunting experience, or whether or not it was induced by Tingana. If we look at the back of her neck, it's not quite as scruffy as Karula's was looking after she was mating with Tingana, but I'm fairly certain there's going to be a couple of bites there in places possibly where Tingana will have broken the skin. And I imagine she might be relishing the piece as much as Tingana would be. We've seen a lot of scent marking from Shadow as well as Karula, and I imagine that Tingana was out and about doing something very similar. Now, Richard King, you were wondering if females ever grimace in the same way that we very often see males doing when they're trying to test the scent of a female or another male. And yes, both females and males will do it. We don't see the females doing it as often, but I have seen them doing it, particularly in response to another female's urine spray. And for those of you not quite sure what I'm talking about, the grimace, it's known as the phlegm grimace, which is a reflex that allows the animal to open up the duct to the gland or the organ that sits on the roof of their mouth. It's known as the organ of Jacobson, also known as the vomeral nasal organ, and it basically is a specialized organ that can almost taste smells. And for animals like leopards and for lions, what they do to open up and get that scent in there is to lift and draw up their top lip and crunch up their nose, almost like they're snarling. And pretty much all of the animals that you see out
Welcome back, everyone. There's a big elephant bull just off to our right. He is moving through. And our luck continues on safari this afternoon. He doesn't seem very happy with us, so I'm just going to stop for now. He's taking a toilet break, but while he's doing so, he is multitasking, and you can see his front end is busy working, getting him quite a steady pace. I'm hoping Shadow's not going to be sleeping for much longer, and soon she'll be up taking you guys hunting with her. Good prospects, I'm sure that will happen. And if I was you, I wouldn't be thicker, but we will be able to get you one more glimpse of him as he disappears off. It's incredible how such a large mass actually blends in quite well with these surroundings, especially in the summer months when it becomes very thick. And it's important to remember, especially when out walking, like Brent will certainly have been keeping very aware, of not only the bugs and beetles he was showing you, but also of these large animals that can disappear surprisingly easy in this thick bush. An update that I forgot to give you guys is that we saw Junior last night, and of course not only seeing the territory but also the Africa Djuama pride, as well as Junior, who was not with them. He was probably about 3/4 of a mile away from them, but he's looking so impressive. And I guess it's been a couple of months since I last saw him. I'd lost track, but his mane's developing very well. He looked to be in good health. And I'm sure a lot of you will be happy to hear that he is still doing well. Still got a very tough future ahead of him though. And what I'm hoping is that the Africa Djuama pride is going to come back onto Djuma for a visit sometime soon. And where they were on Buffelshoek yesterday evening is not too far north and east of the Buffelshoek waterhole here on Djuma. And that is where we are heading towards, in the hope that we'll find them drinking. Those are our plans. Hello, Rocky Nightmare and Rich King. And I think I got, it's Pretty Nightmare and Rocky somebody else. I'm not sure what I've done wrong, but it's Rich King and somebody else. So interested to know what this funny device is for. Oh, it's just Rocky Nights, not Pretty Nightmare. I got them confused. Apologies, but this funny device is a virtual reality filming device, and basically what that means is a special kind of headsets called an Oculus Rift, and this so it's fairly self-explanatory, I guess. If we stop here and I pan off to the tree on the right hand side of us here, with the Oculus Rift you would be able to decide how far up this tree you want to look, how far down, straight up into the sky, any which direction you choose where to look. Videos time and time again, and you'll always be seeing something that you may have missed on a previous episode or previous technology is nearly there or quite there for filming or using an Oculus Rift and a virtual reality camera in a live broadcast yet, but more likely to be in a good spot to make this kind of technology applicable to a live safari. And imagine that. You'll be sitting on the back of the vehicle deciding where you look, when you look there, but we're still quite some time away from that. What this will be great for those to be allowed to share wonderful experiences with people and immerse them in Africa, in close-up encounters with different creatures. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of footage we capture with it. This is the first afternoon we are using it, and we've already just test driving it. Hello to Regina and Anne, and thank you so much to you guys for your kind words regarding all of the technology, the drone, the bushwalk, the microscope, the tent, bushwalk, the microscope, the tent, now this. And you're right, as I've said, our tech guys as well as the founders of the company are understandably always puts a big smile on all of our faces when a new gizmo arrives. And I'm glad you guys are enjoying it too, because it really does pay to make technology work for us in conservation, in nature, for everyone involved. So thank you for your kind words. We're certainly loving the new additions to our team, and give us as much feedback as you can on them. And as a lot of you will be aware, there will be some technical what is going to be at the waterhole. It's just around the next corner here. Possibly another leopard. That would be 4 leopards in one day. Karula and Shadow this morning. Shadow and Tingana this afternoon. Well, no leopard, but it looks like a pod of 5 hippos and a family of 2 Egyptian geese with their 4 goslings. They've started off with 7, so sadly they've lost 3 of their little goslings. Not too sure what got them. The first one that was taken had an injured leg. It was a hop along from the first day we saw them. This thing's tricky. I think these hippos are going to start getting restless. They're nocturnal grazers, and we can expect them to head out fairly soon. And I'm happy that you guys are now getting I'm happy with James narrating the drone's movements. To feed on, and that would be wonderful to see. Last night we drove past Cheddar called Junior, and as we were driving past on Buffelshoek cut line, maybe 200 or 300 meters away from here, we saw 2 hippos heading off into Buffelshoek. So I'm guessing that's probably the time they head out, probably around 7, 10 past 7, so already after dark. But no set rules, and every evening may be different. And what you'll find is in winter they tend to head out of the water earlier on, because they have to travel further in search of food, which is more scarce in the winter months. and we've been racing around and seeing so much this afternoon that I think it's going to be a good opportunity to just stop and listen. And I think our best view to stop minutes, and we can all do the same thing and just enjoy it. Moment of tranquility, I certainly did. My mind went straight back to Tingana, and I really do love big male leopards, and the brief time we did get to spend with them this afternoon was really great. It's not always about quality. Very important, and I feel that that was a high quality sighting. I hope you guys agree. Interesting news. You are about to be transported into the safari tent where Brent has taken something that he found on the bushwalk into jail.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the tent where we are sitting in a glorious dusk light. Now, to link up with the walk, Brent Leo Smith drove back, he walked, he lumbered in a little while earlier, sweating profusely as did Jean-Ray. Brent was carrying a small stick, Jean-Ray was carrying 40 kilograms of equipment. That's just how it works out here. Right. What we're going to do is cross it over to the microscope cam, and that you can see there is the end of a beetle's foot. And that is not what I wanted to link to you, but I just wanted to quickly show you basically what is a beetle's leg, and those little hairs. You've seen beetles crawling up and down vertical surfaces and sometimes up and down. Those little hairs help them to do that. Right, now I'm going to pull him out of there. And now I'm going to focus in on the feather that the inimitable Brent Leo Smith had affixed to his hat. Now we both have agreed, and therefore it is incontestable, that this feather belonged to a Jacobin or Levallian's cuckoo. The two cuckoo species that we see flying around here, black and white they are. One used to be called the striped cuckoo. And the interesting thing about the picture of the feather on the microscope is not so much the colours, first of all. They look black and white when you see them fly, but there's very clearly some pigment there. But the other thing to look at, if we can, is the fact that there are barbs. Now, I don't know if you can see there, on the feather in the middle of the screen, I've split the two filaments of the feather, and you can see that each filament is covered in a layer of barbs. Now, I can't point that out to you because it will make you seasick. But those filaments, at least those barbs, are what stick the filaments together. Now, when you see a bird preening itself, it's obviously also rubbing oil all over the feathers from various oil glands around the place. But it's also sticking those barbs together like Velcro. And what they do is the two filaments will come together, and those barbs will hold the filaments together a little bit like Velcro would hold Velcro together, really. And that's what they're doing. You often see birds preening, and they move their beaks all over their bodies, putting oil on them and rejoining those filaments together so that when they fly away, they don't plummet from the sky and end up in a heap on the ground, which is of course what would happen if we tried to fly. Right, the other thing that we can show you over here on the microscope, if you'll excuse my rather amateurish attempts here, because this is my first time. The first time for everything, you know. This is another piece of jawbone that Brent Leo Smith found while he was on foot. His enormous size 12s. There we go. Right, we're in focus. Now what we think we have there, Brent thinks, and I think this is a pretty good theory, is that it's the front end of the bottom jaw of a scrub hare. And they've got those very sharp teeth, as you can see there, and the sharp teeth will be used to eat the various things that they do, mostly, in fact almost exclusively, roots and tubers and little bulbs and things like that. And you can see how effective those teeth would be at eating roots and tubers and other little things that they might manage to dig up. All right. I think we've also got one more thing to show you here before we go across to some people might. With the gem squash, you can't eat it at all. But it is eaten by things like squirrels. And just look at the texture as I focus in on the surface of this incredible, look at that, that's amazing. Now what we also saw coming across the surface of this gourd, or pod if you like, was a mite. Now there are all sorts of different things. This gourd, this fruit, is an ecosystem. Mammalian and eat it, but I'm sure there are a couple of mammals that might like to eat it. But look at the rich surface of this fruit that you wouldn't actually see at all. Let us examine it like an insect CSI and see if we can't find perhaps what it was. Maybe we can find the tooth marks. Or beak marks of a beetle, or at least of a bird. Sorry about that, that's Graham Wallington's screensaver. Thankfully it's nothing distasteful. There you can see the amazing detail on the head and protothorax, I think that's called, of this dung beetle. And the big thing to note is the eyes. You can see the two brown eyes there, which I think is fantastic. And you can see where the join is. You can see how well armored he is. As soon as he lifts his head up, that join between the thorax and the head closes. And that's the thorax to the left-hand side of your screen, in case you're slightly disoriented. That it finds. And I'll just try and see if we can't get a slightly different focus on the back ones. Sorry, perfectly to be collecting dung from a pile of dung. So I'm not sure what happened to this fellow, how he died, or what killed him, but you know, I suppose beetles are dying all over the place all the time, and we don't know how they die. I think that's probably all I have to show you here. I'm not sure if we're likely to link anywhere else fairly soon. We'll have one more look at perhaps this horn structure. There we go. Okay. Rather than me trying to figure out what on earth that is and where it's come from, let's go across to the magnificent shadow, and thank you for joining us here in the safari tent today, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
It sounds like you've been having an incredible experience under the microscope. Shadow is still in exactly the same place. And I think she's just been spending her day conserving her energy and digesting whatever it was that she ate sometime early this morning or last night. She's definitely not on any kind of mission. I was just wondering what she's been lying here dreaming about. If she does definitely not dreaming about running or hunting. Her paws haven't twitched. She hasn't moved, apart from the regular panting. And I know that I was asked a while ago by one of our younger viewers what lions dream about, and I said I was sure they dream about hunting and chasing things. It's always amazing to think how completely out of it they look. And I mean, she looks so vulnerable. She's not hidden in any way, and yet she can go from completely flat and sleeping to wide awake and alert in the blink of an eye, in a split second. It's on nights like tonight where you can really appreciate the beauty of that color of that coat. I did look for ways that I could reposition around her, but she's found herself a place where there's lots and lots of fallen trees and logs, and we couldn't really have done it without disturbing her, and I'd rather not do that. So we've left her alone, and we'll just have to wait and see if we can get a closer look of that injury another day, possibly even tomorrow morning. Out and wandering around. Gilly, apparently you were watching as Shadow was walking, and you said that you saw her flinch as she sort of put her foot down somewhere around between the paw pads, and you were wondering if that could be a bite mark somewhere between the pads of her paw from all of the mating activity. Absolutely it could. We've seen the way that they respond. I have another possible suggestion as to what it could be. When females turn around and they batter the males and the males batter them back, you've all seen it. You've seen the way that their claws extend. And something that I noticed with Karula and Tingana was at one point when they separated like that, Tingana's claw actually got hooked in Karula, and he had to pull it to get it free. I don't know if it might be a stretch, but it could also be that she strained something in her paw. Maybe her claw got caught, and the hook and the pull just hurt the sheath and the tendon of the claw, because that would also cause her to limp a little bit. It probably impacts every time she puts pressure on it. If it is a mating injury, that's probably somewhere along the lines of what happened. Of course, she might have stepped on a thorn. There might just be a really simple answer to it. She might have stepped on a thorn and gone into the sensitive skin between her toes, and it's just taking a while to work its way out, and in the meantime she's favoring it a little bit and not putting too much weight on it. Nothing too serious, I think, any more than Tingana's minor limp was a couple of weeks ago. It seems as though he's very much on the mend, so I think she'll be absolutely fine. She certainly doesn't look as though she's struggling. In fact, looking at her now, she's looking in really, really good condition. Apart from the limp, she's been well fed, she's looking stocky and strong. It's nice to see her thriving as she seems to be, and moving about on her solitary mission in life. I always find it fascinating the way that leopards seem to be almost relieved and more comfortable in themselves when they're just on their own, when they're not having to deal with another male or another female or cubs with them. They just seem perfectly relaxed and content in their own company, as she seems to be at the moment. I do wish I could reposition, but for now we must content ourselves with Shadow's back and that beautiful array of what we now know to be somewhere in the region of 1,000 spots. looking at her now. Apparently, Bill, if you're watching, you mentioned that cheetah have an average of between 2,000 to 3,000 spots. That's interesting. You come across, I will say that sounds likely. Cheetah's spots are solid. And as I said, it depends on whether or not you count the rosette as one spot or several. It gets a bit tricky when you start to talk about that in those terms. But I would not, I'm trying to picture cheetah in my head and think whether they're more heavily spotted. I don't really think so. So we have maybe a bit of confusion. I think possibly the only solution is to be exceptionally patient and to sit and count spots, which I'm not going to do right now. Although she's flat enough for us to be able to. We started our spot conversation this morning on the school drive, and another conversation we started was about the weight of a leopard versus the weight of a hyena. And if we're looking at Shadow, Shadow and Karula are probably somewhere in the region of 45, 50 kilos. A hyena, hyena. Well, that was well timed. Lenny, that kind of answers your question that I was about to get to. But Shadow's just there. She hasn't moved away too. Gosh, that happened fast. That was incredible. She's just hissing at it, thoroughly disgruntled, totally unimpressed with life. The hyena is going to, he's stopped and he's sniffed just where she was lying. He's looking at her now. There he is. He just had a bit of a sniff around where she was. That was phenomenal. Oops, sorry, I'm tangled. And off he goes. Well done. Well done, Shadow. Right, a couple of things that moment just proved. First of all, what I was saying earlier about the speed at which leopards go from lying down to moving, but actually that hyena was really, really close before she realized, or before either of us realized that hyena was there, myself or Shadow. That was amazing. All right, Lenny, we were discussing weights of leopards, and your question was going to be what my opinion is as to a clash between a hyena and a leopard. She spotted another one. It's one of the cubs, one of the older cubs. Amazing. Now this would... She spotted another one. It's one of the cubs, one of the older cubs. I know fairly well from wandering around the den site. And they're obviously out and about looking for forage. Sure that if there are any others in the vicinity, we're aware of where they are. Lenny, for the most part, a leopard is going to avoid a confrontation, especially a female leopard, because they are so much smaller than the males are. So a female like Shadow just dashed away from that hyena immediately. It's not worth the injury, it's not worth the fight. The hyena, with his natural curiosity and also advantage in terms of weight, might have gone and picked a fight with her. That's what he was going to do. He was going to investigate her, or she was going to go investigate her. Leopards can, however, be incredibly strong, incredibly fast, and a very dangerous enemy. It's not a battle to be easily fought and easily won on the hyena's part, and particularly if you're talking about a battle between a male leopard and a hyena, because male leopards do have essentially double the weight of a female. Now, the reason that a leopard might risk attacking a big warthog is because they are big and strong, and they might really have that ability to tackle and might be desperate and might be hungry, and it's worth the risk then. And it also depends on where you see it. Now, the same applies for the most part. Hyena here in this area will avoid confrontation for the most part with lions. We don't see it every day, we see it every now and again, and only really when the hyenas have the advantage of numbers. And that's because there's so much for them to scavenge that they don't need to risk that injury. But in a different area, I know that leopards might be more keen to challenge hyenas, fight back to protect their carcasses if there's not as much food available to them. So it all depends on the circumstances of the individual leopard as well. The other thing I was going to mention has gone completely out of my head. I had a train of thought there. Hold on one moment. Of Kunuma attacking a hyena, and that is a young male leopard for you, pushing the boundaries a little bit. I think, if I remember shame, poor Shadow. And we have some wonderful news for a viewer who could well be sitting in exactly the same position that we are now. Well, probably not in exactly the same place. But Bill, apparently you are coming to Arathusa on Monday. Today is Friday. Today is Friday, so that's in 3 days' time. That's wonderful news, Bill. I hope you enjoy every moment of it. And I look forward to seeing you either out on the vehicles or around and about. That is very exciting news. And you could well be seeing Shadow as she does her big loop around here and towards Simbambili and then back down to Arathusa. Was almost on top of her before she noticed it and dashed away. I'm so glad that she did. Also, it just goes to show that the speed at which she moved and went from upright to, it's not going to be of any kind of a significant injury to her. It's definitely been a very special evening spent with Shadow. And I really enjoyed it. As well as Andrew, who was flying the drone, and of course Brent and Jandre, who were wandering through. the bush and actually helped us find this incredible sighting, and right down to the wonderful ladies in FC who've been accompanying us, and especially to Tara for her fantastically entertaining directing this afternoon. I have thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. It's been incredible. It's just been such a fun experience with all the different sort of aspects of the bush experience that we can share with you all. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a big thank you most of all to you for joining us. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and we will catch you tomorrow morning for the Sunrise Safari. Goodbye for now.